Welcome back to another Zd TV. I'm your host, today's solo host, Clint, and today we're going to be going through a few things. Let's take a look at the old agenda. It's quite a warm day here in Western New York. Windows are open, which is nice, but going to get a little steamy. So let's take a look here at the agenda. This is what is planned. We have no ZD release notes to read. The 0.25.7 release is hot around the corner, so I do expect it to come soon. However, it is not cooked up yet. So the next thing I was going to go over is actually a new section where we talk about some application security and or CVE type of stuff. And after that, we're going to talk some Zach with Jeremy Tellier and take a look at what Zach is all about. Zach is, or the Zd admin console, is the UI, which is provided by NetFoundry, by the OpenZD project. So that's nice because you get to see and touch things using the UI. You don't have to use the CLI for everything. All right. Well, that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to bring Jeremy on the screen here. Hello, Jeremy.
Hey, everybody, how's it going?
It's going pretty good for me. I thought I'd bring you in because we can talk about the sorts of things that Ziggy is out there tweeting about and see if it's interesting at all. So if you're not familiar with Ziggy on Twitter, Ziggy is out there. I'm going to share that screen. Let's bring this on screen. Let's go down to, let's go this view. Boom. All right. So you can see Ziggy's tweets out here. He oftentimes will talk about CVEs that have happened in the week. So if we take a look at Ziggy's tweets, one of the ones that I wanted to cover was relatively recent. Is it this one? I don't know. We'll take a look at that one. And let's see, what is this one? This one is about Zixel firewalls. So Ziggy likes to go out and find any vulnerability, which is attack vector of network with a permissions required of none. So what does that mean? The attack vector of network permissions required none. It's a CVSS standard. If you're not familiar with CVSS scoring, there's a couple good websites out there. I don't know which one's the best one, to be honest. But you can come out and you can learn all about CVSS. There's a good calculator. I want to find the calculator. This is the guy right here. Yeah. So you can come out here and you can just play around, right? So if you have a attack vector of network with a permissions or privileges required of none, you can get your score. Where's the score? Where does it show the score? Do you see the score on here? I need to find the score. Clear the form. I want to see the form. Well, let me get the TV out of the way. Maybe that'll help. Maybe it's up there somewhere. No. I want to find the score. Why won't it let me see the score? All right. Well, that's annoying. Anybody see the score? Anybody see the button? I see clear form. Maybe I got to pick them all. Let's see. We'll pick the highest one. So attack complexity, we'll say it's high. User interaction requires a user. Scope, impact, integrity, availability. And then you'll get a score like this. And so if you were to look at that score, it'll show you that if you have all of the highest and hardest attack privileges required, but are network attackable with privileges of none, you automatically get a score of 8.3. Anything over 9, I would say, is absolutely critical. But really, anything that's over 8 is pretty bad. And so this is probably so high because the interaction required, or so low, I should say, the interaction required is a user. So you remove the user requirement, bam, you're already at a 9. You take the attack complexity and you make it low, and now you're at a 10. Like that. So this is a CVSS, really useful technique to determine just how scary a CVE is. And so a lot of times you'll see these little calculators, and Ziggy will oftentimes tweet. Where is Tweety here? Tweety, yeah, where is Ziggy? Let's see if I can make that any bigger. Ziggy will oftentimes call out the AV, N, and the PR, none. So privileges required, not permissions. So he'll go out and he'll find these kinds of vulnerabilities and then just tweet about them. One of which was, actually, it wasn't this one. Let's see if I can find which one it actually was. I've got it back in our internal security discussion that Ziggy tweeted about. It's this one right here. Yeah, this one. So this one's neat. I wanted to talk about this one because this is a vulnerability which was apparently, it's been out there for a really long time. I think it says years this has been available. Basically what happens is you don't need any permissions in order to execute the vulnerability, and all you need is network capability to attack. So it's a pretty big problem. But it's great because at first I didn't see how this tied into Zd, and then I thought about it a little bit more, and I had somebody else, read the article to make sure I was thinking about it the right way. But basically, if you are available on the internet, you can have this particular problem because of the way the Linux kernel is working and because of this Berkeley packet filter. This is why they're called a BPF door. Oh yeah, 5 years. It says it right there. More than 5 years. So this is an interesting one because at first I didn't think Zd was going to be able to help, but then I thought about deploying out into the cloud. And if you had a server that you deployed out into the cloud and opened any ports on that server, you'd be able to have a network attacker send or attack your server just by having open ports. So one of the things OpenZD has done is we have created a thing that we call ZSSH as one of our Zdifications. And ZSSH is a Zdified. You can learn about this stuff on the OpenZD GitHub, read the articles, go under Zdifications and read about SSH. So we have this out here, and one of the questions that you might ask yourself is why SSH isn't SSH a solved problem? Well, with SSH, you're going to have some port open and inbound. And just today, we learned, or maybe yesterday, we learned about this particular backdoor, or BPF door, I should say, which is means if you had a listening SSH server, you were potentially vulnerable to this particular problem. So I thought that was kind of interesting. If you haven't read up on this BPF door, you might want to take a peek at that. I thought this article was really neat. Also, if you don't follow Bleeping Computer, Ziggy, he likes Bleeping Computer. He actually subscribes to Bleeping Computer. And so that's where he'll get a lot of his tweets from. He likes to retweet a lot. Like MSPs need OpenZD is another good one.
All right. There's still Solaris systems online. That's an interesting to take away from that.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, like, there's lots of systems out there that just still work, and why, I like to say working software trumps everything else, right? So if you have software that's out there that's running, it works, why change it? Anyway, that's the BPF door, which that was today's revelation for me personally. I thought that was a neat one. I haven't read that one before. Do encourage you to check that out. Encourage you to check out CVSS scoring, very neat. And also this Zixel firewall one, you can see was rated, I think, a 9.8, if I recall. Yeah. So whenever I see one of these CVEs, it's the first thing I look for is this a network attackable, privileges required, none? And if it is, we know Ziggy's going to be tweeting about it. So anyway, those are the ones that came to mind this week. Hopefully that's interesting to people. And if not, then let us know in the comments. We're going to be influencers, Jeremy, right?
Yeah.
Asking people to like and subscribe, drop comments in the chat. Anyway,
I was going to make this interesting, and every time you said Ziggy, make it a drinking game and take a shot. But I'm detoxing, so I got to do water every time you say Ziggy.
Water works. That could be a good game. That could be a good game. I will make sure I say Ziggy plenty of times.
Oh, there we go. Yep. All right.
All right, cool. Well, let's take a look then. We asked Jeremy to come on because Jeremy is the gentleman responsible for the UI that OpenZD provides. We call it ZAC. I actually have a older version ready and online out here for me to come and apparently I made it a newer version last night when
Nice.
when I built the Docker container. So one of the things I was going to ask about is, how does somebody go about getting Zach? What is Zach? So Jeremy, what do you want to talk to us about, Zach? You have one available too, right?
I do have one available. Yes. Let me bring mine up here because I've got a couple fixes in this morning and some settings in here that I'd like to show. So in general, Zach started out as sort of a way to visualize all of the REST services that OpenZD was exposing. As pointed out to me earlier, I am a little behind on it, but we are going to catch up with some of the services that are available. So if you're looking through this and you say, "Hey, this isn't in there," it will be very soon. But also,
we'll get into that in a bit. I'm going to ask that question.
Put me on the spot with that one, right?
That's right.
So, but also as sort of a playground of features and see what we could do with the features available. So, I mean, just jumping right into the main page here, you can see there's a map, but there's not really any intrinsic map or geocoding. So one of the things that I played with in this is sending geocodes as sort of an object attached to things that we're trying to get pushed into the product. I've been trying to get it pushed in for a long time, and I think it's coming down the line sooner or later. But before I jump into each of these individually,
so if I can, basically, OpenZD, open source project supported by NetFoundry, but we have a strong culture of innovation, right? So if there is something which a person finds interesting and useful, and they have the capabilities to go ahead and add it, then like Jeremy in the UI, he'll go ahead and he has the freedom to go and, make mistakes or to make things awesome. Right. So when Jeremy says he's playing around, that's exactly what he's doing. Like, see if throw something on the wall and see if it sticks. Now, if you pull the latest and you pull the project, because it's all open source, right? This is on GitHub, Jeremy.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And where is it at? Is it at OpenZD? Is it on OpenZD?
Yep. Under ZD or ZD console, Zach console.
Under ZD console or Zach console?
Zach. I would have to double check here.
I know. I was just teasing. I'm going to add it up. Boom. Here we go.
Okay, right? All right, good. There we go.
Yeah, right there. Right there. Look at that. I even did the little overlay. See that? It's like I'm a real
ZD console. That's what it is.
It's like I'm a real producer. Yeah, cool. So if you get the latest, then you'll be able to see exactly what you see, right? Like you updated this yesterday, you said?
Yes, I updated this yesterday.
Cool.
And if you are looking around in there, I just want to note there is some things that are hidden, and I'll get to that in a little bit too.
Okay, and so if I wanted to run this myself, I can either choose to constantly upgrade by pulling and then rebuilding, or I could just leave it at whatever version that I know works. Right? Like we don't do tags on Zach yet, right? It's like you get the latest or you get whatever you're at, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And so, one of the things that you started out, you're already like, bam, right into it. But I think is interesting. Can you do me a favor? Will you log out?
Yeah, I will log out.
And the reason why I wanted you to log out is because one of the things that I think is neat is you're able to manage multiple ZD networks with Zach, which is kind of cool. So like you don't have to run Zach out in the cloud somewhere if you wanted to manage multiple ZD networks, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can run it right here. So I'll just do the node server locally. Just get that up and running. This will be the time it gives me that port permission error. Let's see. Oh, it's up. Okay. And then we'll run localhost 1408. And then I have it local. And I can add any kind of edge controller wherever it is out in the wild and add that right in there. I need to, but I've already got mine set up.
So if I don't want to expose the UI to people, I don't have to, but I can if I want to. Like when you run the quick start from Docker Compose, you'll actually get Zach pre-installed. It's one of the containers that Docker Compose will turn on, which is one of the reasons I talked about. I was updating the container recently for that purpose. So if you pull the latest Docker container, you'll also get this version that we're seeing right now. But I think it's neat that you don't need to expose the UI. So if you don't want to have that port open on the open internet, you don't need to worry about it. You can run it wherever you want to run it. Now, if you did that, does Zach work over Zd?
I was going to say, yeah, you could set localhost and create a service for Zach. Right.
That'd be neat. I've actually never done that. Have you ever done that?
No, and just as you're talking about it, I was thinking about it. Yeah, I should probably do that for mine. Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, because
Mhm.
then now, yeah, I mean, you still have to have the API online because all of the Edge SDKs would still require it. I don't know if it's going to buy you anything, but I've never even thought about it. But anyway, all right, cool.
No, I could probably do it right here if I have time at the end. I could probably set it up and execute it. But let's see.
All right, I'm
All
sorry
right.
to derail you, but I'll keep doing that.
Yes, yeah, no problem. So I'm just going to jump into some of the stuff that doesn't really go anywhere. It's just kind of your personal profile settings. So if you come in here and you want to change things around, like I don't like the color scheme, I'm going to make it mine, that kind of thing. You can come in and set these just for fun. They don't really do much of anything. And I'm going to add. I know Clint doesn't like transitions, doesn't like animations, so you can turn those right off. And personally, I like dark mode.
I don't have any time for that.
Yeah, so you can turn that off. You could turn filters after save on, which means if you save an identity or something, then as soon as you're done saving it, it jumps right into the identity in the list. So you don't have to search around afterward. And I'm going to right now hide tags.
Well, hold on. Do we have any sort of doc on what these things do?
No, I thought you hovered over them and it's set, but it looks like that's not in there anymore. No, we don't. So I'll put that on my to-do list. Perfect. Yes. I'm going to go show you what they do. Yeah.
That's what I was actually. That was the next question I was going to ask. Is could you show me? Because I don't know if I've ever even changed that. What does manage profile do? Before we go anywhere.
Manage profile just changes your password. It's just your current password and
gotcha.
Password. It's not much there.
Gotcha. Cool.
All right. So let's say I have these on. You can see what dark mode does. Transitions now. Normally when you come in and you say you're going to add an identity, it would slide up. If you don't like animations, this just sticks it there, so you don't have to worry about it. Now, I turned off custom tags because Zach lets you use some custom tags that you set up in Zach, so you don't see it here. I'm going to come back in a minute and show you what they look like when they're turned on. But let me show you what the search after. What did I call it? Shoot, I got to go back. Personal settings. The filter after save. Yes. So if I come in and I create an identity that's A, and I save it. Now just that's shown, right? So anything that matches that search. So then you're not going around.
So it pre-filtered, it put like populated that little filter box up there.
Yeah, very simple. So it's just.
And is there a nice, easy way to clear the filter, or do I have to highlight it and then delete?
I generally do that. But now that you brought it up,
I need a button.
I can add a little button that says.
I need a button.
Yeah. Okay. I hope we're taking notes here. Yeah.
No, we're gonna get a video. You can come back and check it later.
All right, so let me go back into here.
Oh, and for those who don't know, this is generally what happens when Jeremy and I are looking at the Zach. I will just start throwing out all kinds of ideas, and Jeremy will sure, I can do that.
Yep. A few days later, it'll be in the bill. Yep.
Right. Perfect.
Now I'm going to turn hide tags off because I kind of wanted to mention them to the map in the beginning. There's a section in here.
And hide tags is related to just the map?
Not necessarily. So in here, you can make these custom fields, and you can kind of set up, what you want, and it kind of like defines tags that are useful to your UI. So you can do all sorts of things with this.
Is custom fields, is that something that is Zach specific, or is that something that the Zd API affords? Like, does the Zd API provide this?
So it's a little of both. So it uses tags in the Zd API, but it exposes things to the UI in just Zach to do something with, to react to somewhere. So this is where I'll go make, if I want some kind of custom data, like I said, geolocation, which might make its way into the parent project, or, having images, like we have a avatar, or, we're able to say things like, make it look like this. But I'm gonna jump over there. But you can set any kinds of things that you think might be something useful to you.
So just so I understand, this is defining the format in Zach for where the persistence tier would go back in the API. Is that what I'm understanding? It's like you're defining it here in Zach, but then you'll save it in the API somewhere else. Is that what I'm getting?
Right. It kind of like hard codes a tag to something that you find useful in Zach. In case you're going to
this is creating metadata for Zach to present something to you in a different way.
Exactly. And I'll jump right over and show this here.
Cool.
So now if you go to add an identity, you'll have all these extra things here. So you'll have an image that you can select. You can upload your own, or you can set a couple of the ones that we have in here. And on each of the pages, and since you can define different things, like the services might have their own set of images, And again, you can select any of these. So that's just using the tags in Zd and saying I defined icon. I'm going to use icon in Zach.
And this is Zach. This is Zach add-on, right? This is like Zach separate, not Zd, not Zd API.
Right. It'll save as a tag in the Zd API in case you want to use it somewhere else.
Okay, so on the service, in the actual API, there's a field called tags, which lets you just define arbitrary data as the UI guy, right?
Yep.
So
exactly.
you've defined an entry on the services in the service in the tag field, and then Zach knows how to render that.
Right.
Exactly. I get it.
And if you're going to make your own application, then you could take those tags and you could use them in a visual sense.
Well, that's neat. All right. So Zd has a metadata API, basically tags that lets you just slam any data that you feel interested in into that object, and then you can use it later.
Exactly.
I gotcha. Exactly. Was that ZACLY?
Exactly. No, something different.
Cool.
And that's where geolocation comes in. I'm trying to get this to be exposed more often so we can use it in more places, but that's where I've kind of hard-coded some of these so that the map on the main page actually kind of looks useful if you decided to put a geolocation in. But right now it's just visual. Doesn't really do much of anything. Like when you brought yours up, you didn't have any geolocations in yours, so you just saw a blank map.
But if I were to log into your Zd console, I would see this?
Yes, you could see where my router is hosted downtown if you wanted to break in there and tinker with it.
So. Cool. I'll do
but
that.
It happens to be at the City of Rochester Police Department, so I don't know if I'd want to do that.
Piece of cake.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a question, Jeremy. Do tags apply just to services or other types of entities as well, like identities, configs, routers?
Oh, no, it's on everything. So anything that you come in here, tags is always an object that you bring up. So that's where I saw different things in the identities. Like I just had a profile photo and geolocation, but on routers, I defined a few of them. So I had a tag cloud, I think. Yeah, here's one. Let's do like route enter. So I made a tag cloud one. So each object has their own set of tags. And I just kind of hard-coded specific ones to different objects. And I say hard-coded, I mean in
Zach.
Come in.
Yeah, you've defined them in Zach. Yeah.
Yeah, so I could select what I want here, and then it would be a part of that one.
Gotcha.
UI.
Cool. All right.
But then go ahead.
I was just going to let the tour continue.
Yes. So then if we get back to the meat and potatoes of this guy, we're going to come through, and each one of these, like we said earlier, should map to something in the REST APIs. But as Clint pointed out...
So now you're showing us Postman, right? And Postman is a mechanism for exploring APIs that developers use for anybody who might not be a developer watching.
Right. And as I was made aware today, I'm a little bit behind on these. And at one point we did have Fabric in here, but Fabric has done some changes lately. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, Clint, to make more sense of it, but I'm going to get those back in.
Yeah, so Fabric is now under the management API. There was the whole management API versus client API split that happened at one point, and the Fabric API continues to evolve as well. So like one of the things that we've talked about many times is being able to visualize how your Fabric is composed. And so I'm not a pro when it comes to the Fabric API. We could get Paul on here and talk about the Fabric API, but basically that API is now available. Well, it always has been available. It's just in different ways. Now it's available right out of the controller. And, when you get a chance to do some interesting things in there, I'm sure we'll see some visualizations that come from that Fabric API.
Yeah, and that brings me back to when I said there's some hidden features in here. So since we had Fabric in here at one point that you could add, if you did install Zach and you were looking around, there is Fabric UIs. There's a spread of a network map that comes up. There is a fancy little thing that outlines, what links to what. There's a whole bunch of visualizations, some of which actually did make it into the a version made it into the parent product. So as soon as I get that wired back in, you'll see those again, or at least what the API allots to me. But just so if you're looking through the code and you say, what's all this Fabric stuff that's hidden and not showing up, it'll be there.
Now, what's the mechanism that you use to hide it?
I hit style display none, so it's actually in there still.
so it's actually in the HTML, but it's just it's literally just hidden. So if you
Just hit
if you went to the dev tools, you could change that CSS and poof, it would show up.
probably, but it wouldn't work. So
Sure,
that's why I
sure.
didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. So I could walk through each one of these and kind of show what it is, but like I said, I'm going to actually turn off tags as I do this real quick.
I think
just
it'd be
so I don't
useful.
confuse
Like
people.
one of the things that I know I like for UIs is that it allows me to do exactly that. It lets me explore without having to type ZD, a million times. Like you can explore the API using Postman, you can explore the API using the ZD CLI, and you can explore the API in a UI, which is nice because I can just click on stuff. But one of the things that I find interesting and some feedback I provided not too long ago were things like config schemas, which are the definitions for configs, is kind of far when it comes to the relation to services. Like if I was going to make a brand new overlay service and I wanted to make a brand new config schema, if you click on services for me, like, are config schemas available here? They're not, right? Like right now, I've got to know that they're somewhere else. I do see things like edge routers and transit routers and terminators, which make me wonder. Makes me wonder why they're here. To be honest, like, explain to me, why are edge routers and transit routers and terminators listed here?
This would be because I haven't updated the submenu in a long time, and those things all used to go together.
So remember when I say, "Hey Jeremy, this is a bug," I would say that's
yeah.
I would say that's a bug. So like, have you thought about organizing the left-hand side into like accordions, like things that are services related, things that are routers related? I find it kind of hard in a lot of ways in ZD to do that because so many things are related to so many other things. But maybe you could put the same item in the same menu. Like for example, terminators. Terminators are basically defined offload points from the ZD overlay. So it's where you want traffic to go to, and then once it gets there, whatever that thing is can decide what to do with it. So if you're using like ZD Edge Tunnel or a tunneling app or any of those things, when the traffic gets to the ZD Edge Tunnel, the traffic lands at ZD, which is at the ZD Edge Tunnel, the tunneler, which is why it's called a terminator, and then the terminator, or the SDK app that has the terminator decides what to do with it. And in the case of a tunneler, oftentimes that's take it off the ZD overlay and put it onto the IP underlay and send it somewhere else. So like that might be localhost, it might be some other host name, but services and terminators kind of go together because if you have any identities hosting or binding a service, well, when you get the dreaded no terminators for this service, you're going to want to know, are there any actual terminators? Why aren't there actual terminators? Let me go and let me look at the service and let me look to see how many terminators there are for this service, which makes me think, now we're just in the whole stream of conscious mode of this Zd TV, but like it might make sense for services to display how many terminators are on that service. I don't know if is there a tie? Are terminators bound like that? Can you, if you go to terminators, can you see what service it's for? I actually don't know that
answer. Like I can. Yes, I mean it's here, so it does have one here.
Oh, cool.
So it does
cool.
look like it is.
Yeah, so like one of the things that I didn't realize recently, can you go to like you have policy advisor tied in somewhere into Zach, right? I think it's on the identity.
It's on the identity. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, so if anybody doesn't know, policy advisor is this great thing that Paul came up with because when you're debugging your ZD services, if you cannot understand how ZD has evaluated your policies, it's really kind of a pain. So, yeah, is this the equivalent of policy advisor right here?
Yeah, so you take your identity and you find a service, and then you can click it to see if it's configured. No access to the service.
I see. I see. Neat.
Configured.
Yeah, like that, exactly. It might be neat to be able to see terminators in the same way on a service. So when you go to the service, it might be neat to see where the terminators are, as opposed to going to the terminator screen and finding the terminators. When you go to the service, you could see the terminators on that service. That
makes
seems
sense.
like
I'm glad you described it. I thought it was Skynet bringing up robots. I never knew what that was for. So
maybe it's both. It could it could be both. All right, cool. And what about like edge routers? So overlay network ZD has these two ideas of, well, not two ideas, but there are edge routers that have the edge functionality enabled on them, and then routers that don't. And we oftentimes end up calling them, like what Jeremy does here, transit routers. Um, uh, is there some sort of, like, how do you tell the difference in Zach between the two?
Well, that would be two different services on in here, so that's why it would be named different. I just take whatever's in here and I name it up. So there was what service router, edge service routers. Where is it? Edge routers, and then it should be transit routers. So I'm trying to keep it as close as possible to that.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. Cool.
But now I'm wondering, is it the same thing? Why are they both exactly the same?
They're not quite the same thing. No. So a router which has edge enabled on it will be an edge router. And right now, I would say every service that you've ever interacted with, almost certainly, is an edge service. So I would go so far as to say everyone is an edge service. When you use a tunneling application like the ZD Edge tunnel, it is using edge routers. You must have edge routers in order to provide access to the ZD overlay fabric. And that's why if you look at the controller or the quick starts, you'll see controller is referenced sometimes, as is edge controller. So the controller was built in a way that lets you extend it. And so basically what we did is we took the extension points that are provided in controller and we added edge onto the controller to create the edge controller. And so that's why when you look at the edge controller's config file, there will be sections dedicated to edge, and there will be sections that are not dedicated to edge because they're the generic controller. Some might call it the fabric kind of aspect of things. And so there are two different kinds of routers. There are edge enabled routers, and there are not edge enabled routers, and that's why they're called transit routers, because they're just meant to make that overlay network, that mesh, all that ZD overlay mesh network. We do have, so the quick start also refers to routers as private or not, and what that really means is whether or not you have dialers. So lots of times in NetFoundry literature and OpenZD literature, you'll see us refer to things as link listeners. You'll see that a lot. The ZD, the MOP, the management operation platform from NetFoundry, when you make a new edge router, you can decide whether it has edge link listeners enabled. And what that means is this router is edge enabled, but doesn't have a link listener, meaning when I deploy it, I don't want other routers connecting into my personal router. And that's used actually, well, not yet. A fellow on the team, Jeff, is in the process of changing, and I'm going to share my screen real quick here.
Sure.
He's in the process of changing this diagram here so that instead of having a truly private router, which right now is not providing a whole lot of functionality other than the ability to get, well, I want you one more tick back. I want that bigger and big in this. All right. We want to change this to be an edge router because the edge router also provides functionality of offboarding from the ZD overlay. Really, really important functionality. When you have a ZD Edge router, you can also choose to give that router an identity. And if you give an edge router an identity, you can now let that edge router offload traffic from ZD. And that's what you do when you make a host service. Is you let ZD decide that you want to send traffic to that machine, and then that service that will create a terminator, and then that traffic will get to that terminator, and then the edge router will decide what to do with it. And that's why you'll see tunneling mode enabled in these configs, where you have an actual ZD Edge router, which is also tunneling enabled. And that means it knows how to read the configs that ZD comes with out of the box to provide that tunneling capability, that tunneling functionality. So that's a lot on ZD Edge routers, why there are two different kinds.
Right. I knew that you had one in my house. That's why I called it home. and there's the public one. So I wasn't too sure.
Yeah, and so the one in your house is giving you local onboard to the fabric. That's
Yeah.
cool
Okay.
because and also your edge devices, they will connect to both routers. So if either of those routers goes down, well, I mean, you only got two, so if one if one goes
Yeah.
down, you might be in trouble. But they're providing your local devices local onboarding to the Zd overlay fabric, so that if you were to go out now, both of those are. So let's talk about your edge router policy. Can you bring up the edge router policy?
Sure. Water policy.
And so you'll see edge router policies, and we can see in here Jeremy has a home edge router policy and a public edge router policy. So what that's showing us is his home edge router is available to identities which have the home attribute, and his public edge router is available to all identities. So that means if Jeremy makes a new identity and he gives an attribute of an attribute of home to that identity, then that identity will be able to connect to two routers. If he doesn't give that identity the home attribute, it'll only have the ability to connect to one router, which is that public one. And then we can also see that there are both of those edge routers have policies put in place by the system. You can tell by the name there, edge router, blah, 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 right? And those are because these edge routers are tunneler enabled. And so because they're edge routers, because they're tunneler enabled, they get an identity. And in order to use the fabric, the identity needs the ability to use a router. And so basically it says, hey, this identity can use its own router, which seems pretty obvious, but you have to have that policy. Otherwise you can't do that. So that's cool. So yeah, that's why we have the home router. And that's neat. Like this is where the UI is really handy, in my opinion, because you're able to just take a peek at it and see all of it together like this, which is nice.
Yeah.
Now, we're 37 minutes into Zd TV, and we have not talked about that third bullet on the left. Are you going to cover that?
Recipes, yes. Right, is that what you're talking about? Recipes?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yeah. Nicely named. I had named it templates and couldn't change it. So you see again the sub navigation thing that was not right. So that should be recipes there. But so, like I had mentioned early on, this was a platform for me to play with ideas. And what I've noticed is when I come in to set up a new thing, or if I want to grant access to somebody, to let's say my Plex server, then creating identities and creating all the policies and everything was kind of tedious. And I had to go to a lot of different places and click a lot of things and add a lot of policies. And although there is easier ways to do it with the role attributes and such, I wanted a nice, easy, quick way to generate identities for people to access my things. If my kid wants to access something I'm publishing, like in this case, my Plex server to watch videos, then he can get in there and get it. But let me add a new one so I can kind of describe what this is. First of all, a name. You got to name everything, right? So we'll just name this one a test. Roles. You could use the roles here. And
now, is there an intention to be able to share these recipes?
There is, and I'm actually trying to create a few different kinds of recipes. This is my identity recipe, so it gives access to whatever you've defined ahead of time to a particular set of services. I'm also going to create a service recipe where you can select a bunch of services, and it will actually just put all those in place for you.
So, like, I could see this being really neat. Like, we talk about getting into the self-hosted type of world, and having a Plex recipe seems pretty neat, right? Like that's something that people use a lot. Now, Plex already allows you to do this sort of thing. So people will say, oh, Plex already lets you do this, right? But like Plex does that only if you register with Plex, correct?
Right.
I think, yeah, you have to go through that setup. You have to give them permission to be able to rehost your stuff. And this allows you to not have to go through Plex. Same is true for, like, I use Ubiquity for my networking gear. And if you toggle a little toggle in their settings, then you can use their cloud. What's happening there? Sounds like an airplane just flew over.
Yeah, truck driving by, big truck. Yeah.
If you use Ubiquity's cloud platform, then you can go to their online presence in the cloud and manage your local network. That terrifies me. So like I don't let that happen. So having a Ubiquity recipe seems like it would be pretty neat too. Anyway, I'll stop talking and let you keep going.
Okay. Well, like I was saying, this is my way to have identities created that have certain attributes already defined and grant access to them already defined. I'm going to do a policy. I'm going to actually manually add services too, because it'll create a policy that will allow access to all these services. So I'll put my files in. I do want to touch base. So if I bring this up and I delete an identity after I create an identity, that identity won't be able to access any of this stuff, right, Clint?
If you create an identity and then delete it,
let's say I come in here and I'm gonna create 2 different types of identities with this. I'll do a mobile one for people to use on their phones, and I'll do a desktop. And I'll tell you where I'm getting at after I execute this. I'll hit save, and I'm gonna execute this now. So I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna hit execute, and I'm gonna create Clint. I might have already created one, so I'm gonna do Clint 12. Now it'll tell you what it's gonna do. It's gonna generate 2 identities for Clint. It's gonna create a policy with dial access to those services. And it's going to append these identities to that policy that I set there. So now when I create this, I do need some kind of a loader screen too, because that takes a minute. Now I've just shown everybody watching this, identities, and they can all go in and access my files right now, right?
They can do that. Yep, for sure.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So that's not good. So now what I can do is as soon as I delete those identities, they no longer have access to my stuff. Correct?
Yeah, that is absolutely correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. No, okay. Everybody's scrambling now to get into my place.
To register those identities. That's right.
Right, register those identities. So I'm going to just send them to me. And now let's see, I should get an email. I should get an email. If I typed my email in correctly.
Well, you can can you go download them too? So right now this is going to send you an email, and right. that will just make it easier to deliver these JWTs to somebody. Is that?
Yeah, right. Well, I was going to check. It comes from Ziggy, so I was going to note it. And it's got a little Z.
Oh man! Now I want to see the email. Go back to the email.
Yeah, it's like, oh, there it is. So Ziggy sends it.
Right. By the way, yeah, 2 drinks. Two drinks.
Yeah, 2 drinks. It didn't pick up the Gravatar though. Shoot.
Okay, that's right. There you go.
All right.
And, that's pretty. It might if you have like I noticed you don't allow images to be shown.
Yeah, it's not showing images or anything. On my Outlook, it would show them. My Outlook wouldn't open. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, that's cool.
But yeah,
I would recommend you delete those identities now.
Yes, I'm going to go delete those right now.
I really want to see that they've been used. I was hoping that one of the people watching the live stream has consumed those JWTs.
Nope.
Nice. Bummer. I would delete them though.
There we go. Now they're gone.
Cool.
But
safe and secure again. Safe and secure.
And then we will have policies that got created here. There's a Clint 12 policy that has all that stuff. So
we need what is the term for unmaking a recipe? You need a dishwasher.
Dishwasher. Yeah. That's a good idea.
Ryan was trying. He didn't get there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he was trying. Look at that. Love it.
Oh, and I crashed.
We do have a question. What a game changer. Mind exploding. Will recipes be available via API and CLI?
Well, right now I'm doing it in the UI, so it's kind of forming what it's going to be. But we have talked about doing an export and an import that might process all these some way.
Well, the question would still then be, will it be in the API and CLI? Like, my answer to this is not right now, right? So this is a Zach-only feature at this point. And the reason why is because of what we were talking about before. Jeremy has just been trying to make his own life easier, innovating when he can innovate. And so if this is something that you think is interesting and neat, we've got one chat comment that says, hey, this would be neat. Can we somehow add this to the API? What we can do is we can take that feedback back to the team and, see what the team thinks, particularly Andrew, who is the fella that controls the Zd API itself. And if it makes sense, then, we'll get it into the API and the CLI. But for now, this is a Zach-only feature because Jeremy is just innovating at the Zach.
Just my playground, yeah. So hopefully
it's everybody's, but everybody gets, and everybody who uses Zach will get to use it. Drink break.
Yeah,
I didn't say Ziggy.
Yeah. There you go. I just got it in there.
You owe me one.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else that's interesting in here? Certificate authorities, I think, is neat. We had a person on Discourse trying to add third-party CAs. I actually did all of the third-party CA work using Zach, so that was pretty cool. That all worked out. Anything else that's interesting or neat that you can think of, Jeremy?
So I've never used this, so I'd be interested to go over with you how this was used at some point.
We could do it right now if you're so inclined. You just
sure.
need a certificate that you want to use as your third party CA. So generally speaking, yeah, go ahead. Let's go. Do you have a Zd CLI handy?
Let's see.
Now this is actually something I was talking to Andrew about literally last night, which is creating certificates from the Zd Pki for you via the API. Right now, there is the Zd CLI, and the Zd CLI has a subcommand called Pki. So you can run Zd space Pki space create, which is what we were going to do if you had one. And that will make you a certificate authority. So you can go out and make a certificate authority using Zd right now, using the Zd CLI. I can actually probably bust one up here real quick.
Okay.
Let's see. I need to SSH to my machine where I have one. Let me. Why don't I? Here, you can watch me fumble along for a moment. Let's see if I can. I got to do both at the same time. It's hard. All right, there we go. All right, so Zd Pki. Okay, SSH to CD AWS. What are you talking about? Can't do
SSH.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's better. Sometimes it drops that first keystroke. It's annoying. So now I can do Zd Pki, and you'll see that it lets me do a create. So we'll do a create, and it tells me I can create a CA. And then if I don't specify anything, it'll just use all the defaults. So I'm going to use the default PKI root. I'm going to call this JTCA. And then boop, boop, doop, doop, doop. All of a sudden, if I list the PKI, there will be a JTCA folder with all kinds of stuff in it. So now what I'm going to do on my local machine is I will SCP from CD AWS those folder minus R to my temp folder. EMP. Chug. Permission denied. Love it. What is that all about? Let's go back to CD AWS and do a chmod 777 on this. Now let's try that again. Still permission denied. Okay, well that's frustrating. So let's just put that into /temp and see if that's what the problem is. I don't know where okay, that's what my problem is. CD temp LLJTCA. Yeah, let's move JTCA to /mount vtemp. Oh, I didn't have the V before. That's what I messed up. All right, so now I can send. I'm going to bring up my Mattermost, go to my Jeremy Tellier. I'm going to attach the C:temp, JTCA. I don't remember what the cert is called right there. Here. All right, so now I have sent you a certificate. Can you take that certificate? I'm going to show your screen for a second. Can you take that certificate and upload it into Zach?
Let's see. This is what I got when I clicked it. That's weird.
No, just go to Zach.
Okay.
Click the plus. There you go. And then go find that cert. And downloads.
Yeah, nice. But I'm like...
You know, the good news is you weren't on camera there. That would be pretty hilarious.
Bunch of people walking around outside, yeah.
Go ahead and give it a name. And in this case, we're going to give it is auto enrollment. You can give that true if you want. There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Give it is OTT enrollment and is auth enabled. You can do all three if you want. Sure.
All three. Okay.
Go ahead and click save. Now, once you've done that, you have now given Zd the ability to say, hey, if any certificate shows up signed by this CA, go ahead and make it identity because you gave
Okay.
it the auto enroll true. So we're not gonna do that bit. It's gonna take more than 5 minutes that we got left here. No,
Okay.
go back to the CA. Go back to the CA. Yep, because we're not done yet. That CA is not ready for use. It has simply allowed you to use it. It is not verified. Boom, boom,
Okay.
boom. So if you click on the 3 little dots there,
Mm-hmm.
go to verify.
Verify.
You'll see what happens is it says, hey, I need a verification token, please. So can you go ahead and text to me or message Mattermost me that verification token? What you need to do now is you need to take that verification token and create a certificate which is valid and signed by that CA. Otherwise, the CA will not work.
Oh,
So
okay.
now I'm going to show my screen. Maybe. Boom. All right. And so now I've got that token here. So I'm going to Zd Pki create. I think it's just let's go to create. I think client, and then paste. So it'll tell you. I put failed to read the CA. I didn't give it the right CA. CA. Client. Where's my CA? I need to give it the right.
Because I think this feature's been in there since day one, and I don't know that I've ever used it in my environment. So
Yeah, it is definitely neat. Why is it using CA intermediate? That is the wrong CA. I also don't see the flag I need to provide handy. Let's see if it's in my history. PD edge. Let's grab for PKI instead. Create CA name right there. Okay, so let's go back to ZD CA. Create client. Paste. CA name equals JTCA. Oh, this is client name equals that. So this is not good. Let's get rid of this over here. And then client file. Fun fact for anybody watching and listening, the word client is one of the most difficult words for me to spell. It's too close to the word Clint. Verify. That's cert. Okay, PKA root not specified. Whatever. Does that go so? It's not going to work. All right. Is there a key in there? PKI root. Maybe I'll get the Zd Pki root. I've clearly run this command before. Zd Pki create client. PKI root CA name client name client file. Failed fetching JTCA. Isn't that what I called it?
I thought so.
I thought for sure that's what I called it. Create CA. Where's the create CA? Where is it?
JTCA.cert. Yeah, that's what it was in Mattermost.
Maybe I got to give it to .cert. See, let's do a history for CA name. What did I call it? CA name equals new CA. Huh. That is just the name of the new CA. Why? I don't know what I did wrong, Jeremy. I don't know what I did wrong. But that's what you would do. Dang it. We're going to run out of time.
Yeah.
That's what you do. You make that certificate, and then you use that to verify the CA. And then any ID which you create that presents that certificate would be valid. So that's how you would use it. Anyway, I'm not going to fumble about live on Zd TV for this.
Right.
Cool, man. Well, I think that's kind of everything, right? Like, is there anything else that's amazing that you wanted to get on the table?
No, I don't think anything I want to show this time. We'll see. I've got a lot of stuff coming, so we'll see. Maybe we'll do another one of these.
Maybe there'll be another one.
Yeah.
Nice. I love it. Don't forget github.com/OpenZD console. That's been your Zd TV for the week. Jeremy Tellier, thank you for showing up and taking us on a tour of the ZAC, and we'll see everybody next time.